Hello and welcome to this week's TechA video newsletter on Friday the 21st of November 2008. TechA is where we at Insight Support use technical analysis methods and many years of trading and analysis experience to view the current state and of the indices, of the key indices of the FTSE, Dow, DAX, CAC, Nasdaq, and Nikkei, and using the skills that we have and the techniques that we teach our students on insightsupport.com, of which we have a free course which you can take. We then analyze where we currently are with a view of projecting that into the current week as to see where that may lead us, coming back the following Friday with a new update. So here we have I'll start off with the CAC actually. What you will find actually, just quickly going through some of these, the CAC, the DAX and probably the FTSE will all look very similar. As we can see, the reason partly is they're all related in many respects, simply because they're all based in Europe. Certainly the DAX and CAC, and obviously the FTSE has an influence on those, and vice versa. The French CAC is found support at 2953, is consolidating at this range, likely to break anytime soon really, and then further falls down to around about 2005, 2006. Looking likely, I would say, simply because we have this not so much a dead cat bounce with that, but a bit of a consolidation really, and we've got a very thin market and a very bearish market, so which is no surprise, but very thin market the last few days, acting at support at 2949. The DAX very similar, but with a support at 4185, looking to break, I would imagine, much like the CAC, moving down then towards this area, which for some strange reason the share scope is not giving me the price, which is very helpful, but I would imagine that's around about 4,000 there. We have the Dow. Looking at the Dow, there was initially a triangle break which we had. It's now very bearish. We've got a huge bearish move from yesterday. The market's very down. Key point at around about where is that? Come on. Right, that's around about 7,000. 7,200 is possibly where we're likely to see a point of support begin. That's really the bottom, I would begin to say. We're likely to find the bottom of the market there. If it breaks that, then things, we really are in trouble. That's where I believe where the bottom's likely to be with the Dow. Moving back to where we were with the FTSE. Consolidation and at support at 3861, looking to move back down towards around about 3004, 3003 before we find any bottom. But I think the lead needs to be taken from the Dow. If you can see where with the Dow we're going to see towards hitting a bottom around about this area, about 7,002, 7,003. We're likely to see some support being generated there. But always with the markets being the way they are, don't take that as a given. Just because that's probably one of the strongest areas of support that we're likely to see in some time. If it breaks that, and it can break that still, then there's an awful lot further to go. But I do believe that may be a substantial support. Whether that's enough to create any long-standing support where we're likely to see the beginnings of a possible long-term recovery, or certainly consolidation, then that remains to be seen. But this is sort of the lowest point before the proverbial hits the fan, because up till then, there's some serious drops. So really, we need to see if that's likely, and we're likely to get that either from the market trading in the Dow and the US markets today, or certainly Monday, if that's likely to happen. So it remains to be seen whether we do have the bottom at this point. I do feel that we're likely to see at the very least a bit of an upturn, much like we've seen previously, where the market's sort of gone quite bullish. I would imagine it would do much the same there, and then once again there'll be a lot of talk of the bottom, or having found the bottom. And I think, chances are, if there is going to be one, it is going to be at that level, because it's like a last chance saloon. There's from that point, it's really quite desperate, and we're going to see an awful lot further bearishness if it does break through those. So next week, really, so today, look at the US markets, and next week too, if it starts to hit those, and there's got to be some form of support being offered by those, and it manages to break those and then continues to break them, then not so much be concerned by that, but it just means that the bottom that everyone that I know has been saying, the chances are this is likely to be the bottom, and I tend to agree with them. If there was ever going to be a bottom, that would be right where my cursor is now. But if it breaks through this, then we're likely to see dramatic falls, because I think a lot of hope is being pinned on just this simple level of support, and if it is broken, then there's a long way to go from there, and an awful lot of work to do. So yeah, back to the Nasdaq. Similar story, really. Look for the Dow on the lead with the Nasdaq and the Nikkei, because we don't have the information going back as far as we'd like. We're just looking out for the Dow to lead the way. So just to repeat, look towards the Dow and the S&P next week. Because or certainly today as well, on which is Friday the 21st, markets probably are just about to open in the US. So it's going to be an interesting time over the next few days. I would imagine markets would be I would imagine relatively thin leading up to the weekend. I'll just get some information. Just bear with me 2 seconds. I just need to find out something so I can tell you. Yeah, I was just looking at the economic calendar, if there are any reports due out in the US today, and there is none due out. There's a few European ones. Mostly the Canadian indices are going to be probably hit, if there's anything likely, but they're not going to really have any effect on the US. So having seen that, chances are, with it being excessively bearish yesterday and we're leading up to the weekend, I would hope to see some degree of a relatively thin market. Not that it's the markets are incredibly volatile, certainly, and we're likely to see that, but I would imagine we're not going to see a move beyond where we currently are. I'd imagine it's likely to probably stay within that range, with further moves from next week. Being leading up to the weekend, I would imagine that people are more likely to be a little more, I'd rather just see where it goes kind of attitude, and then come back next week and see where it goes from there. So I imagine that's what's likely to happen. Not thin market, but one that's relatively stationary around these current points where we're at. So that's this week's Tech A video newsletter. Up for an exciting week next week, back on the 28th of November, next Friday, with another update, and I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, take care. Bye bye.